Ferrari just made a surprising statement that could change Hamilton's future forever. Ferrari has always been a team that promises magic, but somehow stumbles when it matters most. And in 2025, they really outdid themselves, choosing to shift all development focus to 2026 before the current season even had a fighting chance. The decision felt bizarre at first. Fans were furious. The car looked like it had potential early on, especially in 2024 when it seemed ready to catch McLaren. But then, out of nowhere, the development curve just flatlined. Races came and went and the updates barely made a dent. That's when the higher-ups at Maranello decided to cut their losses and place all bets on a new future, 2026. Now, here's where things get interesting. That future might just revolve around Lewis Hamilton. And not just as a driver, they're actually building the next car around his style. Ferrari is finally waking up to the fact that Hamilton's feedback might be their golden ticket. It's not just lip service either. There are people within Ferrari, like Serra, the guy in charge of chassis development, who fully believe in Hamilton's ability to guide this ship. Ferrari didn't join Ferrari by accident, and he definitely didn't help convince Lewis to sign with the team just for vibes. He sees something in him, and he's betting big on it, and why wouldn't he? We're talking about a man who's won 7 world championships, 6 of them with one of the most dominant F1 teams in history. He knows what a great car feels like. He knows what's missing. He's been through highs, lows, dominant streaks, and seasons from hell. That kind of experience isn't something you throw aside just because he's the new guy in red. Yet in 2025, that's exactly what Ferrari seemed to do. Both Hamilton and Leclerc reportedly weren't thrilled with the new rear suspension. But while Charles has spent years fine-tuning the car's development, Lewis was stuck trying every possible setup he could imagine, none of which seemed to work. It wasn't until he copied Charles's setup that he started seeing anything close to pace. Even then, he described the car as uncomfortable, with a tiny operating window that makes it nearly impossible to push consistently. And still, Ferrari didn't act on his feedback. The excuse? He's still adjusting, still learning, still in that so-called acclimatization phase, which might make sense if he were a rookie. But we're talking about Lewis Hamilton. If he says something's off, it's off. You'd think a team that's been desperate to return to form would be clinging to every word the man says. But instead, they let his suggestions float into the void. Jock, Ferrari's senior performance engineer and a man who has worked with Hamilton at both Mercedes and Ferrari, is said to be one of the loudest voices in support of taking Lewis seriously. And honestly, he's right. If Ferrari continues to rely solely on Leclerc's input, they're going to fall into the same loop, tweaking the same variables, applying the same logic, and expecting a different outcome. Is not about choosing sides, it's about balance. Charles brings consistency and history with the team. Lewis brings the mindset of a champion and the wisdom of someone who's won with multiple constructors. Together, they could be a dream team. If Ferrari's leadership stops being stubborn and starts listening, because right now the clock's ticking. And 2026 is coming fast. Lewis Hamilton didn't leave Mercedes for a casual end-of-career ride. He came to Ferrari with purpose. A lot of people question the move. Why leave a team where you won 6 titles, even if they've had a dip, to join a team that hasn't won a championship in over a decade? But Hamilton isn't here to relax. He's here to rebuild something legendary. And that starts with the 2026 car becoming an extension of his own racing instincts. In his own words, he wants the car to carry his DNA. And that isn't just some poetic metaphor. It means everything from the chassis balance to the brake feel to the way the car responds before the car actually responds to the way the chassis wants to suit his style. Because right now, it doesn't. And that disconnect is painful to watch. Even Hamilton himself admitted recently that he's tried every possible setup direction, but nothing feels natural. It's like he's fighting the car instead of flowing with it. And when he finally mimicked Leclerc's setup, it only made the car less bad. Not good, but here's the real kicker. Hamilton's been through this exact situation before. Back when he first joined Mercedes, the team was nowhere near the level they would later achieve. It took years of shaping, building, and refining. His feedback was instrumental in that rise. And now, he's trying to recreate that formula at Ferrari. That's why having people like Loïc in his corner is so important. Serra knows Hamilton's style, he understands what makes him tick, and more importantly, he believes in the long-term payoff of building around him. Of course, not everyone at Ferrari shares that belief. There's still internal tension. Charles Leclerc is the established driver, the face of the team since 2019. He's got deep ties within the garage, and for better or worse, the current car reflects years of his influence. And there's nothing wrong with that, until that influence becomes a barrier to change. Ferrari has to break out of this echo chamber, because if they keep designing around only one voice, they'll keep hitting the same ceiling. Simon Lazenby from Sky F1 made a powerful observation. If Ferrari really wants to leap ahead of McLaren and Mercedes in the 2026 development race, they have to marry Hamilton's vision. Not flirt with it, not dabble in it, fully commit to it. That means accepting that a guy who's won 7 world titles, when Ferrari has brought home 0 in that same span, might actually know what he's talking about. Then there's Jock, who's seen firsthand how effective Hamilton's feedback can be. He's been part of both the Mercedes and Ferrari chapters of Lewis's career, and if there's one engineer who's probably yelling the loudest in those Ferrari meetings, begging them to listen to Hamilton, it's Jock. He knows what's possible when Lewis is in sync with the car. That kind of synergy is rare. It's what built dynasties. And Ferrari has a chance to capture it if they stop resisting. Fred Vasseur, as team principal, holds the key. He's the one who needs to make the call, to change the team's approach, to lean into driver-led development, to silence the noise and focus on performance. Because right now, Ferrari is sitting on a goldmine of experience and intuition in Hamilton. If they let it go to waste, they won't just lose races, they'll lose the future. Hamilton's presence at Ferrari isn't just about performance, it's also about culture. He's not just changing setups or car geometry, he's challenging how the entire organization listens, adapts, and learns. At Mercedes, he was surrounded by engineers who treated his feedback like gospel. Every comment, every instinct, every minor complaint was investigated with urgency. That environment created trust, and that trust created dominance. Ferrari hasn't worked that way for a long time. Too often, they've fallen into a pattern of protecting tradition instead of evolving. Drivers voice concerns, but the engineering side sticks to their own interpretation. That stubbornness has cost them year after year. And now, with Hamilton on board, they're being handed a second chance to correct it. Damon Hill, the 1996 world champion, said it best. Leclerc is a phenomenal driver, but he's only ever been with Ferrari and Alfa Romeo. He doesn't have the same library of experience across different car philosophies. Hamilton, on the other hand, has seen it all. He's driven through 3 major regulation eras and has tasted both success and suffering at the very top. When he says a car needs a certain type of balance or traction behavior, he's not guessing. He's pulling from nearly 2 decades of data and feel. That kind of depth is rare. And if Ferrari is serious about building a winning machine, they can't afford to ignore it. The SF25 was proof that something is fundamentally flawed in their feedback loop. Neither driver trusted the car, and both struggled to unlock its pace consistently. Hamilton even admitted during a post-qualifying interview that he felt useless after being knocked out in Q2, while Leclerc managed pole. But the subtext was loud and clear. He doesn't feel heard, and that's the most dangerous feeling for a driver who thrives on connection with the machine. Ferrari's biggest challenge isn't just technical, it's emotional. They need to rebuild confidence, not just Hamilton's, but everyone's. Engineers need to believe that their changes will matter. Drivers need to believe that their input is acted upon, and the leadership needs to set that tone from the top. If Fred Vasseur and the core team can shift the internal dynamics, then 2026 won't just be a fresh technical slate, it'll be a cultural reset. The irony is, Ferrari has the resources. The factory is world-class, the talent is undeniable, the funding is never in question. What's missing is cohesion. The pieces are all there, but they've never been assembled in a way that unlocks their full potential. Hamilton could be the glue, if they let him be. There's also a ripple effect to consider. Hamilton's arrival has already sparked whispers that more Mercedes engineers might follow. That infusion of new ideas, methods, and mentalities could be the jolt Ferrari needs to break their old habits. It's a chance to blend legacy with modern championship DNA, and it might be the only way they stand a real chance of beating Red Bull, McLaren, or even a resurgent Mercedes in the coming years. Time is short. The 2026 regulations aren't just a reset. They're an opportunity to build something from the ground up with a true championship foundation. But it starts with listening to the one man on that grid who's already climbed the mountain 7 times. If Ferrari gets that part right, the rest might just follow. The red car at the front of the grid, Hamilton with his 8th title, and the roar of tifosi who've been waiting far too long for a reason to believe again.